All right, we'll get started. We have a quorum. Make a motion to open the Finance Committee for October 14th at 6:30.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? With us is Councilor Dane, Councilor Bacon, Councilor Tallman, Councilor Graney. Joe McGivern did call me saying that he cannot make tonight. He's actually at an event for his sister. And Josie Valentin, Councilor Valentin, will be here later. She's at another event. So, and Gladys is here, Gladys Martinez. Anyone else? Did I miss anyone? All right. With that, there was a request to skip down on the item and move out of order. So is there a motion by the committee?
Yeah, motion to suspend the rules to go to the item regarding the public hearing.
All right, and that'd be 283, or how do you want to?
Yes.
All right, so
Motion to suspend the rules to take up 2 and 3 together.
that was seconded. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? So make a motion to move from the table items 2 and 3 as a package, which is petitions opposing the sewer runoff fee and proposed sewer runoff fee. So both for that. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? And we have the petitions here. That's the first one. So 2 petitions came in on 6/24/2015. It was checked by the clerk's office as to the signatures. So we have those before us. And what we can do now is make a motion to open it up to the public.
So move.
Open up the public hearing.
All's in
Second.
favor? All's opposed? Is there going to be a time limit, or how do you want to proceed?
I would recommend that, people give us their name, address, and keep it to 2 to 3 minutes per speaker, please.
All right, so the request is to state your name, address at the microphone, and then try and keep it to 2 to 3 minutes. All is in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So the microphone is open up to the public with regards to the petitions. If the public has any comments, you can come right up.
Lorraine Gorham, former owner of Lorraine's Fashion Showcase on High Street for 33 years. I have one question to the Board of Aldermen, and I guess it isn't to you. Don Humison cannot come to the floor in the Senate.
Oh,
With-
Lorraine, what's your current address, dear?
It is now 298 Jarvis Avenue, Loomis Apartments.
Wonderful.
I just sold my home because I couldn't keep my pool up, and I paid plenty for water over the years, and that's why I'm here tonight. But we have something that could solve this problem. Why cannot Mr. Vega put this in? And I need an answer on that. Why can't they? Why hasn't he? Can any one of the 4 of you tell me that?
I certainly have an opinion on that.
I would like an answer, because this would solve the problem, and I think everybody here knows that.
You want to
Linda, do you want
And
to?
I hope that's going to be in the paper
can't-
tomorrow.
Lorraine, I can't answer your question specifically, but I can let you know that I have filed an order, because we've been told verbally on a few occasions that general counsel at the state legislature level has some concerns. They have not been communicated to us officially, to the city council. So as far as we know, it's sitting in the 3rd reading, ready to move on, and the council unanimously asked that our state delegation move this home rule petition, which would allow us to shut off water if people do not pay both the water and the sewer fee. So because we've had this verbal information provided to us, but we have had absolutely no official communication, I have filed an order that we may receive any communications relative to this matter at the city council. As far as the city council is concerned, we unanimously, I believe in 2013, sent this to the State House with the signature of the mayor. At the last city council meeting, we unanimously asked our state delegation to move it forward. Our mayor has not signed on to that order to move it forward at this time. However, what that causes is a delay. So we then have to wait for X number of days. If the mayor has not vetoed it, then it will be sent to the state, urging them to please go ahead and pass this home rule petition, which it could have allowed us to be going after the $700,000 for the last year. That's the best information I can give you at the moment on that.
Everybody here should be seeing that that is done, because they're asking you perhaps to pay more money, but you don't have to. Just make sure that Mr. Vega puts this through, and I think that's where it stands. Thank you very much.
I would also, just to echo what Counselor Vacan said, that, you know, we passed this 2 years ago to have the shut-off authority granted. If people will recall, the reason why we had that put through and the reason that the fund is short, which is precipitating all these talk about, you know, new fees and all this, is you got about 12 to 15% of the sewer payers not paying. And that's not right. That's not right to everybody else that's paying their bills. And that, of the shortfall annually, $700,000 of it is from non-payment of the bills. Now, there'll be talk about, well, we'll lien them and we'll do this and that, and maybe someday we get it, maybe someday we don't. Well, geez, I mean, come on. I mean, we can't wait around 5-7 years and maybe the property isn't worth anything, or maybe it's an apartment block, and we know what they do with the apartment blocks all around, right? They milk them dry and then they have the city to demolish them. So we need this legislation to go through because the water department doesn't have a collections problem. You don't pay your water bill, it's extremely simple. Click, off it goes. And as soon as you want some water, you go down and pay the bill, or you get into a payment plan, and then click, they turn it back on. It's very simple, right? So when we passed in September 2013 with the unanimous consent of the city council and mayor, we sent this down there, and we're getting every excuse under the sun, basically saying, you know, we can't do it, or we can do this, or we can do that, or pass this 40 yen thing, and, you know, which is, by the way, a major thing. I don't want to get too deep into that tonight, but there's a lot of dirty details in that legislation. And so the bottom line is, we need Representative Vega to get the House to take care of it. Senator Humison said he'd take care of it, but he can't get it into the Senate until the House passes it. So that was the conversation that we've had there. I've asked the law department to reach out to this, quote unquote, the general counsel to the House of Representatives in order to get what are these, quote unquote, specific issues that they have with this. I don't know why anyone would care what Holyoke's doing, because this only affects Holyoke, right? Number two is, whenever you ask to speak to the, quote unquote, general counsel out there, and you say, well, give me the person's number, give me a name. Oh, sorry, you're not allowed to call, and I can't give you a name. This is right from the rep's office. You got to go through me, right? Well, you know, how about an unfiltered piece of information? So there's absolutely no reason. I've never seen, you know, special acts. We've ever had a problem getting these passed in the 20 years I've been here. And now all of a sudden it's, you know, we don't want you to do this, we want you to do that. It's not rubber stamping. It's called, this is very, it's very specific that we need this legislation passed. We could, with this having been passed, we could already be 1.4 million richer today in terms of this fund if we had this adopted 2 years ago. So this is really, really serious. We need this passed, and obviously, if we could get this type of thing passed, you wouldn't even have to have these other conversations about new fees. You're just getting what you're supposed to be getting now. So enough on the current pending legislation.
There's no other, Councilor Graney?
Yeah, since I've been on the council, we have not received any legitimate excuse or reason why this hasn't passed. That's the bottom line.
All right, no other questions? Mayor?
Yep. Alex Morris, 11 Linden Street. Just wanted to come both as resident and as mayor of the city of Holyoke, just to clarify some information as to the stormwater fee, the prospect of something like that, as well as sewer collection of unpaid sewer fees. as well as the prospect of adoption of 40N. Like all of you, I agree with the importance of collecting back sewer fees. It's something that I know you and I, Kevin, have talked about many times. This is why I signed on to the special act that the council passed unanimously over 2 years ago, and I would also be pleased if this was to move forward and be passed. I've gotten the same information that the council has received in that being told that, hey, Holyoke, there is a 40N available to you, and it was designed so that cities and towns around Massachusetts can adopt this law rather than have to go through a home rule petition special act of the legislature. And so this is, I think it'd be a great first step rather than a fee in order to collect the back taxes. I don't think it's fair to expect people to pay more that are already paying either sewer fees or property taxes. So yes, that would be a good first step. And the reason that I'm advocating for 40N is because of this information we've been told by the state. And I also think it would be more efficient to have a combined water and sewer department. And I know there's a lot of weeds within that discussion, as you alluded to, but I am willing to have that conversation with counselors. And for me, it's not about making sure that I have the appointment power of the combined board. I want to work alongside all of you if we decide to pursue 40N. And I would just ask that the council at least have a conversation about 40N, because what that allows for is a combined water sewer department, allows for water shut off for non-payment of sewer, and then we could aggressively collect that $700,000. I will also remind people that over the last 4 years alone, we have collected $1.7 million in back sewer fees through both printing names in the paper, the threat of that, as well as putting liens on people's property 12 months after their initial default on the sewer fee. So there has been some success there, obviously not enough, and that's why we're having this conversation. And after examination of the sewer budget and the sewer fund, it's very consistent with the operating expenses there. And a lot of the deficit is in the form of a stormwater deficit, that is payments on the bond that the city took in regards to the federal mandate around our CSOs. And so it is a bigger issue. In regards to the petition for opposition to a stormwater fee, I think this is a petition in opposition to something that has not been filed by any city councilor and is not currently being discussed or debated by the council. But I do respect the voices and concerns of residents. I heard that loud and clear last night, and in many conversations I've been having with residents in all neighborhoods really throughout the past several months. And so I'm here tonight just to stand before you and say that I'm prepared to take this issue head on with each and every one of you, every 15 members of the Holyoke City Council. I think the taxpayers deserve us to work together on this issue to collect those back fees before we go back to people to collect more from them. And again, just remind people that while a recommendation was made for the council to consider a stormwater fee around the budget setting, budget proposal process, we will balance the budget this year with free cash without the need to impose any new fee on the residents of the city. And so I just wanted to come tonight to clarify that information. And again, just to let you know that I stand prepared to work with you to figure this issue out. Thank you.
Linda and then Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I hope in the spirit of your comments that you'll sign on to the unanimous resolution of the city council and be part of that being forwarded to our state rep.
Yeah, that'll be
great.
signed. And it's my understanding, even if it wasn't signed, which I'll sign it, that's not a big deal at all, is that conversations can be had with the state rep to urge him to do that. And I know in the past, the council has asked state rep or state senator to write letters or do things without permission of the mayor. And so you don't need my permission to ask the state rep to do that, but I will sign the order.
We understand that, but it forms that united front.
No, of course. And they know that to the extent that I sent Kara and I sent Rory. They went down to the state house to even advocate for this bill. And so staff of the city took resources and time to go down there and advocate to a committee just on this bill, which dedicates, it shows that our dedication to this issue has been consistent. And believe me, I would welcome the news that we're able to shut folks' water off for non-payment of sewer just to get this moving. And most often, it doesn't even get to the point of water shut off. Just that mere power and threat alone accomplishes the issue.
Right, we understand that, and we appreciate the support that you've had, but there's nothing like the top guy showing up.
No,
Thanks.
and thank you for inviting me.
And I would just also like to read into the record as a point of clarification that the folks who filed the petition filed it and stated that they recognized that it was the mayor's proposed stormwater fee. So it is recognized that it's not in effect, there has been some confusion over whether it's before the city council or not, because within the audit report, the city's response states that this recommendation, referring to the stormwater fee, is currently being reviewed by the city council, and that report was dated June 2015. So that has created some confusion. So I am working to straighten that out so that there will be an amendment made to the audit report, because it was the city's response as to how are you going to fill the $1.3 million deficit. And since we know that is not the way that it will be addressed, that report needs to be updated and corrected. Thank you.
Just like to touch real quickly, since the 40N issue came up again, and just so people are aware of, there's been conversations in the city government talking about how we may or may not merge the water and sewer department. And what Representative Vega and apparently the mayor as well are advocating is that this model legislation that was passed many years ago, it's a local option law. The city could accept it or not accept it to merge these two departments under this format. And what I would tell you is we already have a special act relative to the water department, which was created 100 years ago. And we also have one for the gas and electric and a number of our other unique municipal departments. All we need to do is really amend the original special acts. We don't need to adopt 40N in order to merge the departments. Let me tell you 3 major reasons why I'm absolutely opposed, and I would encourage every city councilor to vote against 40N. One is the most obvious, which is that it takes away the bonding authority of the Holyoke City Council, your elected representatives, in order to bind the city on general obligation bonds of the city of Holyoke, right? You elect us to be fiduciaries of your community, right? And you can unelect us if you're not happy with the type of job that we're doing. 40N strips that authority away from the city council to bond, that is to borrow money in the name of the city of Holyoke, and it's supported by a general obligation of the taxpayers of the city under our name. That authority would be moved from the city council to a new commission, okay? And this is in that 40N legislation. A lot of people don't know that, I do. And so that's one of the many details of why you would never want to strip your city council of that authority to some unelected independent commission. Number 2 is, this commission has the authority to buy and sell city assets and property, okay? So for example, as you know, one of the things with the merger of the departments would be to transfer potentially to this new entity, if we had the 40N, all of your reservoirs, all of your water, wastewater treatment assets, all of this would now be under the control of this new independent commission, independent of the current waterworks department. They alone, without a vote of the city council or mayor, could sell or purchase assets and land of the city of Holyoke without any elected official say. Do you want to do that? Certainly not me. This is one more of the massive ramifications of this foolhardy idea. And then the third is we currently have a sewer commission that's appointed by the mayor without any confirmation of the city council. But the water commission is currently appointed by the city council. And I would just remind folks, if you look at the sewer commission and the sewer department today, it's got a $1.3 million deficit. It's hanging on by a thread. Hardly the most well managed from a financial perspective. Water department, on the other hand, completely well run. It's running a surplus. As a matter of fact, it's about to pay off the bond for $1.6 million a year that we did in 1999 to fund the Ty-Carmody pipeline that now feeds all the water for the city of Holyoke. This was the reservoir that was purchased out in Southampton, and so we built a massive pipeline out to this that was purchased by very smart people from Holyoke many years ago, back in the 30s. And so that is about to be paid off, and the water department is doing a fantastic job. Sewer rates, they've tripled. Water rates, they haven't gone up at all. So, you just look at the two and you say, do I really want to merge all of that and just put it under the mayor's authority? I don't think so. I think we need to talk about a more balanced approach to a future commission, because I can tell you, is from a city council perspective, I think the case is quite obvious that the water department is very well run and has had no problems. And I think anybody can go over to the water department and it speaks for itself. So before we allow Representative Vega to use just adopt 40N and don't go and get these non-paying sewer people to pay up, you just know that that's a phony argument. And I've said it, I will not allow that to stand out there as an excuse not to collect this $700,000 a year. So I hope we get off this 40N thing, because I couldn't imagine the city council would ever give up all this authority that it has from the voters of Holyoke. And so I do hope that we're able to move forward at some point and we can have a conversation about merging the departments without giving away all of the voters and the residents' authority it has in its elected officials.
Anyone else? With that, we can keep going to the mic for public comment. So anyone who wants to come up, state your name, address, and
John Counter, 427 Mountain Road. I'd just like to read something here so I keep going here and make some sense here. Okay, basically, my problem is my wife and I have been a resident for over 23 years in Mountain Road, and every 3-4 years, we have to pay approximately $300+ to have the septic pumped out. Several years ago, we had to replace the whole system, over $17,000, and I'd be afraid to find out what it costs now. But there was never any help in defraying the cost. For a simple reason, the city never had and still doesn't have anything in place to help people with these expenses. Yet, we as septic owners, and this is the important thing, at least my wife and I feel this way, it's just not septic owners we're concerned with. We're concerned with other people that faithfully pay their bills are being asked. And again, I've been hearing it's called a mortgage tax and different things. It's always been proposed. Anyway, anyone I've talked to, no one's ever said it was a done deal. It's just something they're talking about. And we're trying to stop it before it's too late. But yeah, they pay their bills. And the only thing we'd like to suggest is if the city could find another avenue to explore, such as having the unfaithful pay their bills for a change. And like I say, I'm here to ask the council members to vote no on this proposal if it comes in front of you. And thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, John. Anybody else?
no one else wants to?
Oh, we have a taker.
Hi, I'm Nicole Roy from 136 Mountain Road. As our own personal budget, we always, balance up, but if we don't spend what we don't have. So why can't the city, when you do their budget, make sure either you cut, you don't spend more than what you have, so you keep raising taxes? When we built our house on Mountain Road 27 years ago, we paid $1,600 in taxes. Now we're up to almost $6,000. Our house did not get any bigger, but we still have to pay our taxes. So we have to work and pay everything. We pay for, everything is going out from taxes, government, city taxes, health care is going up. So where does it end? You always have more fees. Years ago, someone mentioned wanted to have a garbage fee. We never paid for that. Some people did. They never got their money back for it. So that's one issue we have. How can young kids who is getting married afford to get a house, raise their kids, send them either if they want to parochial school, or a lot of people are getting out of the Holyoke City School because of the, the state taking over. So something has to end. Otherwise, you're going to have everybody here who don't work, stay in the city, who's going to pay for that. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is James Bryant. I live at 314 Appermont Highway in the city of Holyoke. This is my third home I've purchased in Holyoke, Mass. I love this city. I work for the city. I really do. I'm a true Holyoker. In regards to this proposed sewer tax. I got septic. I gotta pay, I gotta call someone, this week and, get it emptied out. No one helps me with that bill, and I'm in a fixed income. But, there's gotta be other ways. My suggestion is, maybe a, audit of the sewer department. That private contractor they got down in Springdale. Have their books ever been looked at? Put them under a microscope. They should be able to save something. You can't keep taking money from free cash, because guess what? The city's not running on its own. You're going back into the free cash. Free cash is for emergencies. It isn't to balance the budget. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Stephen Bosco. My business is located at 430 Appleton Street here in Holyoke. Just a quick question. This may have been covered previously in discussing this issue, but the figure $700,000 is frequently batted around, and I'm wondering if that is kind of an uncollected debt that there is still a reasonable expectation of collecting in the future, or is that more of an annual amount that is bad debt that we have given up on the idea of collecting? Because it's kind of an important distinction to make. Thank you.
I would say as a general rule of thumb, the 700,000 does not ultimately get collected, because if it was being collected, we would see it, Steve, going into the unrestricted funds of the account. It would appear as free cash in future years. For example, like say, if it was just not paid now, and then we leaned the properties and we were collecting it, okay, in a subsequent year, well, eventually that would catch up, right? You might be delayed a year or two because some people are in arrears, and you would ultimately collect on these liened properties. They are collecting some, as the mayor alludes to. However, the fund is chronically short now, to the point where all of the free cash that we used to have at one time, 10 years ago, a $3 million surplus in this account. And just to give you a sense of it, in 2005, before we privatized the operations of the sewer plant, the budget was $4.3 million a year. And we had a $3 million surplus. Flash ahead 10 years. Oh, and by the way, we had the lowest rates in Western Mass, $1.95 per 1,000 gallons. And that was the rate for years and years and years. Okay, flash ahead 10 years. Here we are, 2015. The budget's now $9 million a year. So 4.3 to 9, okay? And we have a 1.3 million deficit from a 3 million surplus, and we have 3 times the rates we had 10 years ago. We went from $1.95 to they're $5.40 now. So the answer is no, that money is not being collected. And as a result, we see it all the time, write-offs on different properties constantly. Either the city takes these through tax title and just writes them off, or for a variety of reasons. Generally on the single-family homes, you're likely to get those, but those aren't the big bills. See, those are the ones that are maybe you got $1,000, maybe you got $1,500 or $2,000. I mean, it takes a lot to really accumulate thousands in a single-family home tax. So the answer is no, we're not collecting it, because we would see that coming eventually back into the fund. So hopefully that answers your question from a cash flow perspective. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Linda?
I just want to make a comment. I think I heard another part to the question was if that money was really bad debt and will all end up being written off. I think that is the whole purpose of the home rule petition. We haven't had a lever. Some of it might be, but we really haven't pressed it to see how much of that is collectible. And that's what we've been trying to do for the last 2 years. Thanks.
Yeah. Please.
Oh, Carol, why don't you just come on up to the microphone?
To the mic, please.
Give us your address.
Not for the viewers at home.
I have one question pertaining to the line item budget. concerning free cash. Now, free cash comes from where?
Unexpended funds of prior years.
Okay, and in that free cash is our taxpayers' monies, right?
All of it.
All of it. And we on Mountain Road never had sewers, never had water, and we were helping pay for the sewerage, drainage, and whatever downtown had for years without knowing it. So I'm saying the free cash, as somebody mentioned before, is not free. We're not getting anything for it. That's all I have to say.
Speaking of the microphone, sir.
But just, yeah, use the mic, John, because this is being televised.
Specific questions. When we talk about the shortfall on either the sewer side or the water side, we talked about 700,000 in uncollectible. How does that relate to the 1.3 million shortfall? And the shortfall, I understand, is going to continue until a bond is paid off, and that's another 20 years?
Well, we're about halfway into the bond. So you got about 10 more to go, at least, yeah.
So for 10 years right now, it says we're going to have a shortfall of $1.3 million.
Well, no, it actually keeps growing, okay? The shortfall happens to be how much it's short at the moment. But the problem is there's a structural deficit in the fund in that they do not collect all the revenue that they need to fund the budget. So as a result, the annual shortfall is about $800,000 to $900,000 because they're just spending more than what is being collected. The other big thing that I think we should note that is noteworthy, over the last 10 years, there was a major change. The DPW Commission voted to give Sunoco Paper a large reduction in the rate, and that's pursuant to an agreement that they have. They're allowed to set the authority on industrial agreement. They used to pay about $2 million a year into the fund, this one particular big user, and that was reduced to about $1 million. So that's another big reason. That happened a couple years ago. But to answer your question, the 1.3 just happens to be what the deficit is currently, and that does have to be covered annually, otherwise we cannot set the tax rates. So in the original message that the mayor sent to us in May, his proposal was the stormwater fee. We never got the plan. There was talk about the plan, but we never got the actual plan. And that was supposed to be what was going to cover the 1.3. Now he stated here tonight that perhaps that's not the plan anymore, and that he perhaps is going to use free cash, which, by the way, I don't believe has been certified yet. So we don't even know how much free cash we even have yet. And I can tell you right off the top, the budget was 4.1 million short that was handed to the city council. Now, through the hard work of my colleagues here, we took $1.6 million off of that tab by budget cuts back in May, okay? The deficit, though, the first $2.5 million that comes in the door for free cash that we find out was unexpended, that's going to go just to balance the budget as we have. And that will grow another 1.3. So now we're going to need 3.8 million if there's no other enhancement to just fund to balance the FY16 budget. So the answer to your question is the $700,000 is this revenue shortfall, which means if everybody paid, and there is a statistical amount that's considered like 98%, there's always 2%, even the water department, we even have this on the property tax side, that don't pay, right, for a variety of reasons. People have hardships, such and such. But the point is, we're not at 98% collection. We're more at around 85 to 87% a year collection in the sewer, because there's no disincentive not to pay. Literally, people, the experience that we have here is that, as a person, we get one common bill in the mail. and has two pieces to it, a water page and a sewer page. People will literally pay the water and not pay the sewer. Well, okay, yeah, right, because you're on, you probably have a well, right, John, too? Yeah. Okay, all right. But for those that do, Wow, wow, yeah.
But, back to my original question, the shortfall is associated with the bond, and it's 1.3 million. And that says for the next 10 years, there's gonna be a shortfall of 1.3 million.
No, it's gonna keep going up. The bond is a separate payment. It's just what, the 1.3 represents this year's operational, okay, that is revenues minus expenses is a 1.3 deficit in the fund, the enterprise fund. The bond payment is included in that 9 million number I gave you earlier. It's like approximately 2 million-ish of it is the bond payment that we pay. We have a $24 million bond out there that paid for the tank that's down there, which is that was originally $18 million. And at the time, we did another $6 million in deferred maintenance improvements. Just different things that the plant needed. There was a pump and a whole bunch of other ticket items that needed to be done. So we had about 24 million in bonding that took place.
Okay, thank you, my 2 minutes, so we're more than
Okay. Oh, that's
And I just want to clarify for Jen too, because a lot of the discussion last night was talking about parts within the sewer fund. So the discussion included this side of the fund, but as a practical reality, it is one fund. Okay, so to talk about it as two separate parts, one's doing fine and the other is short, is kind of like talking about any city department budget that's in a deficit and saying, well, the department's doing fine, it's just this one line. So, it's just a matter of how you're framing it, but it's one fund.
But didn't Bellamy last night say that the sewer fund or the sewer function is profitable? Small, but profitable.
He did say that.
Profit used for
based on what?
runoff, or does it go into general funds?
The sewer fund, the money that goes into the sewer fund stays within the sewer fund.
But I believe he indicated there was a short profit. Revenue and expenses on the sewer, that there was a small profit. I want to know if that profit was used for the rainwater runoff. Does it go in the general fund to repair the roads?
All the monies that go into that fund stay in that fund. And he was talking about pieces within the fund. This side of the fund and that side of the fund, but it's all in the sewer fund. It was just a discussion point.
So,
Doesn't change the numbers.
John, if you look at our budget, we have the general fund and you have one enterprise fund that really is ultimately the big one, which is the sewer fund, okay? And for years, the sewer fund ran a surplus, and it has its own free cash. And the free cash in the sewer fund also gets certified, just like the regular free cash that we have on the city side. Well, we don't get free cash anymore because it's deficit every year. This deficit being the 1.3. I don't know what he would mean by there's a profit in that sewer fund. I'll have to ask him about that. But the revenues are definitely not sufficient to meet the expenses, because if there was, then we would have a surplus in the fund. But the general fund, under the totality of the city, is required to make sure that the enterprise fund for the sewer is balanced in order to set the tax rates.
Yes, John, I do know what you're talking about because he was articulating an argument about a portion within the fund that relates to the sewer processing and the activity within the fund that relates to the stormwater. He was attempting to make an argument in support of the fee, but it's still one fund, as Counselor Jourdain just said, and you can talk about it any way you want. I said, based on the discussion of fees, I mean, we could have a Quinn bill fee to cover that. We could have an overtime fee to cover that. I mean, but that was the argument. And he was talking about within the fund itself, this activity versus that. But at the end of the day, it's one fund. That's all.
Anyone else?
Just check in. I don't think so.
Hello, there
Yeah,
we go.
much better.
How it is.
Adrian Dolan, 22 Keefe Ave, candidate for City Council at large. So I have no grand proposals, but a couple ideas I wanted to introduce into the conversation. One about broader context and one about a potential partial solution. And on this point, forgive me if I missed any explanations at yesterday's meeting. I couldn't be at that, but it's a little bit puzzling to me that we haven't talked about the big picture reason that all this whole conversation is happening. Big part of the reason anyway, which is that we have a combined sewer overflow. Our stormwater and our sewer combine when there's a major rain event. It overflows into the Connecticut River. And the EPA has repeatedly asked cities like Holyoke that have a combined sewer overflow to do something to mitigate that effect, because we've made commitments at the national, state, and local level to protecting our wetlands and our rivers. So that's the big picture reason all this matters, in addition to city finances and the tax burden on all of us. Now, that to me, the fact that environmental side of the problem combines sewer and stormwater literally in our infrastructure seems like a decent incentive to explore combining of these departments, so that there are reasons to look at both because they're part of the same problem. So I don't know if 40N is the solution, but I'm intrigued by the possibility of streamlining these two departments. Now, on that subject of rainwater runoff, something that I haven't heard discussed in terms of solutions is the idea of reducing the load on the whole stormwater infrastructure by increasing infiltration of rainwater at the street level. So modern planning practices have a concept called green streets, which is any policy, any land use policy that increases basically soaking of water into the soil at this level, so it's not going down into the infrastructure and it's not overtaxing the combined sewer overflow system. So I hope that regardless of what we do to sort out the financial problems with the status quo, but we can also look at the decisions we're making, at a site level, and it's things like urban forestry that soak up more of that stormwater. It's things like incorporating vegetation into our streetscapes. It's permeable pavement in our sidewalks and potentially roads. A lot of solutions here, and of course all those things cost money, but one at a time we can make decisions that incorporate those. And the ultimate expense of decreasing stormwater load at the front end is much lower than, say, revamping our infrastructure. So some ideas to consider as we're looking at this whole big picture. Thanks.
I'd just like to mention that as long as this situation is going on with this $700,000 that's owed to the city, as long as we don't establish consequences for not paying that bill, those that don't pay are going to continue not to pay. So that's why we need this movement from the state. We need to have this legislation passed so we can move against these people who aren't paying their bills and alleviate the situation for those that do.
Hi, Paul Bleemer from Appermont Highway, West Holyoke. I was at the meeting last night. I've been down to several council meetings, and I'm here again tonight. And I think I'm a little confused about one thing. We've been with the stormwater, or not stormwater, but the outsourcing of the sewer department for about 10 years now. And I'm understanding that prior to the outsourcing, it was running in the positive. And now it's in the negative. We're 10 years down the road. It doesn't sound like it was a good deal for the city. I don't understand why can't we get out of it? And should we attempt to get out of it and bring it back to where it was? And then that would put it back under the umbrella of the city council, would it not? It might be something to research. Thank you.
The only thing I'll add to what Paul just said there is, the voters opposed this, 57% to 43%, said they didn't want to privatize, but that wasn't the decision at the time of the people that were in power. And so here we are today. But there is a 20-year contract. It does have a 1-year out provision. I have, in my meetings with the mayor, I have asked that we hire an independent evaluator. This contract is 700 pages, by the way. It's just loaded with, stuff way beyond my pay grade of things on engineering, on loadings, on all of these different calibrations, and all these algorithms on how they calculate all the different rates and things. You need a pro to really get in there and be able to evaluate this contract to make sure that the city is getting a good deal. We have not done that, and I have asked repeatedly for the city to hire an outside consultant. Probably cost 50, 60 grand to do it. That's small money when we're talking about $9 million a year, in my opinion. So I get a lot of, yeah, Counselor, that's a great idea, but it never happens. And all of this was said by the experts at the time, 10 years ago, and that we were going to need about $100,000 a year to spend on contract compliance. But they took that out of the budget because they didn't want to spend the money. And just to making sure that the outside vendor, Aquarian, was doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now today, United Water. So my argument on that is you need to, one of the components of the solution is getting the people, everybody to pay. That's obviously the most no-brainer portion of this, right? I think we're all in agreement on that. Everybody pays their fair share. The second component is there any way we can control cost in the department, right? Is anything? Nothing? They've never cut costs $1 in this department, as far as I can see. And so you have no cost containment, you have 15% that aren't paying, and now what's the only other solution left? The rest of the other 85%, they have to pay the bills, so now they want more money. And now it's this juggling act. Do we just have another general rate increase and just go to, you should see some of the proposals. They're talking about $9, $10 rate. Do we do that? Do they do stormwater fees? Do they do this? The list is endless, but it all comes back to, as this lady points out in the back row, more taxes, more ways. So we have to do these other intermediary things first before you can actually look the voters in the eye and say, we need more money out of you. Haven't done these two parts yet. That's the concern.
To the microphone, please.
Could that be put back on the ballot?
I suppose, yeah.
Is it worth a try?
It's on.
Yeah. Problem, yeah.
Okay.
The problem, Paul, is you'll find out, just like the last time, it went in non-binding because the mayor under the charter has the authority over making contracts.
Okay.
Okay? And, he can do this. He can make these contracts, There's been other contracts he's made that weren't too popular, that many people are aware of. So he has contract authority. And the reality is, even if you did it and it was 100% opposed to having this continue with the ballot box, that still would never be binding on the mayor. Only the mayor can make that decision to revoke or exercise the out provision in the agreement with
Okay.
1 year's notice. That's, yeah,
With 1 year's notice.
that's right.
What you're speaking about, an outside source there to check their books and everything for six, how much did you say?
I'd say about 50 to 60 grand was some of the numbers I was told to do an independent, to hire a consultant to do an evaluation of the agreement.
That sounds like a pretty good investment to me.
I think so.
Thank you.
Maybe we do it again. Yeah. Alex was in favor of it, but, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Good evening. I got two things. Mike Franco, 7 Primrose Lane. First thing is, we talk about this 10-year period and being in a deficit because of the private-public partnership with the different companies. I'd like to know, Kevin, maybe you can figure this out, how much of that deficit is due to the infrastructure needs over the years? Because the numbers are really huge as far as being in a deficit and so forth. So with the upgrades and everything, there must be some of that deficit due to upgrading the system over the last 10 years. It can't be due to all inefficiencies, in my opinion. The second thing I have is, as a question I'd like to pose and hang it there in the air, is whether or not the folks in West Holyoke in wards 5 and 7 use any of the CSO infrastructure whatsoever. Thanks.
I would say just give me, Mike asked a question as to how much went in capital improvements, right? About $3 million is about as I can ascertain, Mike. My best estimation of, well, let me back up a minute. It was $2 million a year, about $24 million in capital improvements, plus about $1 million that we borrowed from the company. So it's about total over the last 10 years of about $25 million. Okay. So that was $18 million for the tank, $6 million in other stuff, and then $1 million that they borrowed from the company, which would have to be paid back if we ever left the contract. So $25 million. So you take the budget, which has been ramping up to where it is 9 now. It started at 4, so let's just say the average is 7 over the last 10 years. So, about $25 million of 7 times 10 is $70 million, okay, to run the operation. About 25 of it was capital, and the other 50 was just general operating expenses of the plant. Staff, salaries, all that kind of thing, chemicals.
One second, Linda.
I just want to answer the other part of the question.
And by the way, we still are not done paying that $25 million. I mean, because we still have another 10 years of bonding ahead of us too. So that's sort of deferred. So actually, when I'm doing my math calc on that, we've only paid maybe 10. So it's actually, the split is probably more like 60 for operations and 10 for capital, because we still have 10 more years to pay on the capital. What was the second part of Mike's question was? Oh, good, yeah, Linda, take it.
On the second part of the question is, the folks in wards 5 and 7 on the other side of the mountain do not avail themselves of any activity through this water treatment plant because the rainwater, the stormwater cannot flow up the 202 hill and down into the treatment plant. The rainwater and the stormwater in that part of the city are handled by Mother Nature to the point of one of the earlier speakers through the national brooks, rivers, and aquifer. And so to that point, the answer is no. Thank you.
Hi, Glenn Roy, 136 Mountain Road. If you can't collect the sewer, how do you expect you're going to collect that fee? Maybe I won't pay the fee. People don't pay the sewage.
Right.
I pay my taxes, but I won't pay the fee.
That's a good point.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Ron Cobb.
My name is Ronald Cobb, 93 Mountain Road. I have a couple of things I would like cleared up. One is we have this contract with the water treatment plant, right? We've got 10 years left on it. And it is my understanding there's an option to renegotiate. Wouldn't that help? If we got lower taxes to pay that in, wouldn't that help out?
Yeah, I think the answer, Ron, on that is, yeah, you're right. The problem is we're in a weak position to renegotiate because United Water knows the contract infinitely better than we do, and I don't feel you have equal bargaining power. The point is, that's why I think we need to hire an outside consultant to really evaluate the contract and to advise the city as to where there could be savings in a negotiation, right? Knowledge is power. I mean, I do contract negotiations every day, day in and out. And when you're on the two sides, if one side's got all the data and the other side doesn't really know, this is not going to be a fair fight. So that's why I think to even the playing field, you really need to hire an outside consultant to evaluate where the city could save so you can actually negotiate and make a savings. The problem is we've never done that, and we haven't done our homework on that as a city, and we need to do a better job with that.
You plan on doing that?
Kevin plans to, but I'm not the guy with the say. That's the mayor, and so hopefully he will agree to do that. That's been my recommendation to him.
And my second concern is the pumping out of septic tanks. From what I understand, this is only what I hear, is when you have your septic tank pumped out, you can't bring it over to the treatment plant. They refuse to take it, even though it's been pumped out of West Holyoke. And so therefore, when you have your septic tank pumped out, they have to go to either Northampton or Westfield. And of course, it costs them more to go there. So therefore, guess who pays that? Is there anything we can do about that situation?
Something to look into. Seems reasonable. I mean, maybe I'm sure there's got to be some fee associated. Probably the argument the city's going to make is since the people on septic aren't paying, then therefore they shouldn't have the right to have their tanks pumped into the municipal system. That's the theory being. But maybe there's some way that they could do a fee that would be cheaper than what you would be paying if you brought it somewhere else, and this way everybody saves, you know?
And I would note that if the fund was self-sustaining, that point would be true. But it must be noted that everybody sitting in this room, water, sewer, well, septic, has been subsidizing the sewer fund for the last 2 years. So they have been paying for the sewer. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm still John Connor on Mountain Road. Yeah, and what I was just talking about, last time I had my septic, I believe, just so we got some numbers, roughly half of the cost is for, mine goes to Westfield. And so, to me, instead of paying Westfield half the cost, I'll give it to Holyoke.
Interesting.
So I think it's something we could, I mean, there's different, I mean, last
Makes
night, I
sense.
was at a meeting, and we got to start getting creative. Well, let's get creative in a more creative way.
Yeah. Seems to make sense, yeah.
Smart people.
Yeah. Never heard that discussed before. That's a good idea. Learn something new.
Mr.
every day.
Green?
Just a question to the chair. Could we file an ordinance or file an order to explore that very thing? Certainly, I'd put my name on that.
Sure. Yep. It's a good idea.
I got one question. Where is everybody?
Where's
Or the
everybody?
councillor?
Well,
We vote for this guy. We vote for this guy to run the city, and they don't show up.
It doesn't matter. That was
Yeah,
full council.
just,
They should, we
Dan-
should watch those names, and those don't show up, vote them out.
Counselor Glassmore Martinez was here. Counselor McGivern did call ahead and said that he can't make it. Actually, his sister is getting an award tonight for a teacher's award, so he's committed to that. Counselor Valentine did call ahead. She's at another meeting, but said she'll get here once that meeting's over, and then the rest is here. Counselor Leahy is here. I forgot to announce him earlier. I'll just point that out. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming down tonight. I mean, this is important hearing from you. I wasn't at the meeting last night, but the thoughts you bring up are very interesting, and sometimes, as you stated, John, that we got to think outside, be more creative in our thinking. And Mr. Cobb, the part about taking the money and bringing it down to the sewer plant. I mean, many of us didn't know about that. Where your water goes from the septic system. To go to Northampton or Westfield or Southampton, wherever. And Holyoke could be generating some revenue by getting some of that. If you pay $300 to Westfield, why not pay, maybe $150 to Holyoke or $200, and that'll help offset things. But I mean, this is like citizens in action, as a government in action, which is important that we need to hear, because we don't always hear that, and we're not really in touch with everybody, on a daily basis, other than emails or phone calls. So I
at the time it was Concert Burdell, and we're up in an uproar then as well as now. Why should we pay for something that doesn't concern us? I mean, we're willing to pay our share, but not above and beyond. And no, this is nothing on John. I like John, but he says, "Oh no, the city," and that's why I'm surprised no one's ever brought it up. He says, "Oh no, the city is probably talking about maybe getting a truck and helping you out." Well, it would have been nice to see it in writing, but. See, and that's why I've never said anything about it, and I'm thinking, why hasn't it ever come up, And the 300 plus is the total, so it wouldn't be 300 to go to another town. I'm saying it's probably like 150.
100, 150.
To go to Westfield, send it to Holyoke and give Holyoke the money, and it's a win-win for everybody.
And that's the thing. We're hearing from you that we get all this information and then we can do things. Just like this brought up about the stormwater fee. I mean, that's something that the mayor brought up as an option. And nothing that is set in stone yet, but it is an option that we could do. But we'd have to look at the total picture of it. What does it cost? Why do we bear the cost on you? Where it's really, you are basically paying for the sewer fund, with your taxes. You take the money, if we're gonna balance the budget with free cash, basically that's your money, it's my money, our taxes that are in that free cash account that are paying for this. So it's not like you're not paying, in some cases it seems like you're paying double. But I appreciate you coming down tonight and, making your points known.
I didn't know if everybody of the public is done. I only want to speak if they're done.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Name, address.
Good evening. I'm a little bit late because I didn't know this was going on until I turned the TV on. The stormwater fee, I guess that most of the people here are
Richard,
against it.
Richard, give your full name.
Richard Thurl, 191 Brown Avenue, Ward 3, Holyoke, Mass. Okay. I've been against this because it's very unfair. It's very unfair to the 6,300 people that are paying now. I did some research, and this is what I found, that the sewer department, the wastewater treatment plant, can process between 6.5 to 7.5 million gallons of water a day, average it out to 7 million gallons of water a day. We had a meeting, a ward meeting, and we had a water department fella there. They draw 5 million gallons of water a day from Carmody. Billable is 4 million gallons. That means there's 3 million gallons of water a day that we are paying for now because we're on a sewer system. We're not only paying for ours, we're paying for the other 3 million, which is 43%. Now, when this was brought into 10 years ago, when this was brought up, I questioned the legality of it then. Since when did the mayor or the board of public works commissioners have the authority to just eliminate the 700? Because, wait a minute, they maybe are not in it directly, but indirectly they are, number one. they use the streets. They come down. United Water also cleans the catch basins up there. I found that out last week. And they clean the culverts. Now, even at $1 a week or $50 a year charge, I'm paying well above that already. So, and it's all about paying fair share. You can't have one part of the city say, no, we don't want it. Wait a minute, something wrong here. We can't carry any more taxes. As far as the sewer fee, the sewer wastewater treatment fee coming off, I'm already paying that. I'm already paying for the rain that comes down and goes down and clean the roads. You know, because I'm on a sewer system. Okay? I don't mind paying for what I flush the toilet or use a washing machine or whatever else. But we're also paying for the extra 3 million gallons that goes down it. And I also found out that all the departments, the school department, city hall, public works, they also get billed. And I says to the person, well, where does the money come from? Well, that's in their budgets. Oh, if it's in their budgets, that means it comes out of the taxes. Okay? So if it comes out of the taxes, now, if you put an ordinance in saying there'll be no money taken out from the general fund to pay to subsidize the sewer system, wait a minute. Is that going to affect the budget, the taxes? Because that's come out of taxes too. So it's a double-edged sword here. We all have to carry a little bit. We have lost $350,000 since 10 years. At $50 a week, $50 a year, and $735,000. Multiplied by 10 years. We lost $350,000. Well, we had to pick up. And as far as being a sewer system and being on a septic system, at the end of 20 years, it's a wash. They pay once up front. Get the things cleaned every once in a while. Okay, the septic system being drained, flushed out. Us, we pay every quarter. 20 years, number one. Number two, we are responsible from our sewer system, from in the house, right to the streets. Something goes wrong, nobody comes down and fixes it for us. Oh, no. Talk about people up in Ward 3, that girl just paid $5,000 last year for get the pipe repair. But the fellow had paid $15,000 to get out to the middle of the street because his sewer system got plugged up. Or about when you have to get your line unplugged, it's $100. You know, so at the end of the lifetime, it's even. So there's something definitely has to be done here. These wards here, we cannot afford to carry the city along without some help. We gotta, this is not right. If they're using the streets, if they're using the things, and it's part of the city expenses, then everybody should share in the fair cost. Well, like one fellow says, he said the other day, he says, let's see, if you're paying, they're drawing down $7 million and you're paying $4 million, then the other $3 million should be divided evenly amongst everybody. He was right. Thank you very much.
I just want to clarify that the way the finances are running in the city right now, I want to clarify that the way the sewer fund is running in the city right now, every single person in the city, whether they have sewer, no sewer, septic, a well, are paying for the sewer fund through their property taxes right now and for the last 2 years. So if you institute a stormwater fee, then the people that are paying now with their property taxes are going to be paying twice for something they don't get.
We're paying twice now. We're paying for our property tax and we're paying for our sewer fee. So we're paying twice. They're paying once.
Not really. They're paying for their septic and they're paying for the sewer. So the point The point that we're having here,
All right, well, let's, Linda. Make a point. We're just not gonna go, we're keep a quorum here.
all I wanted to do was clarify what the current circumstances are, and what I wanted to sort of finish up by saying, but I want to wait and make sure there's no one else who wants to speak first, is that it's important to have meetings like this so that people can come together and understand in the public forum what is going on in your city. I mean, it is, after all, your city, and we're representing you. And so that's the point, and the citizens filed the petition opposing the fee for the various reasons that we're hearing about, and all of the information that everybody is bringing to us tonight is all helpful, useful, and we're listening to. Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yep.
So it just doesn't make sense that all this is, 700 are excluded, but we use all the streets, use the facilities, and our expenses are very high, and we already have these rates, so it's something has to be addressed in the whole city. And by the way, we're, I think, the only city that does not have a stormwater runoff. Everybody else does. Why? Thank you.
I'm gonna tell you why. We already overtax. We already
Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone have a final comment or motion or, okay, Linda?
I just wanted to make a final comment, and I just want to say that I applaud the people who organized, went out, spoke with their neighbors, and brought this before the city council. We are here to represent you. It is totally appropriate for the citizens to bring up something in the public arena that is proposed. It does not have to be an official filed order before the city. And I would note, for people who like to count the heads in the room, that there were well over 100 people that signed onto these petitions, and there are people throughout the entire city, whether they're on sewer or septic, that oppose an added fee for something they're already paying for, without the city council and the mayor taking the steps that we have discussed earlier. So we have, at least for myself, I have heard you loud and clear. I'm happy the citizens are speaking, and I encourage you to continue to do that, because that's what we're here for. So I thank you all.
All right, with that, is there a motion with regards to the petitions? Peter?
Just a motion to comply with, receive the petitions?
So
Yeah,
the
received.
petition requests that the city council hold a public hearing regarding the sewer fee, which we have, so it'll be complied with.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
All right, so for both orders, items 2 and 3, that they are complied with. All those in favor? All those opposed? No, we skipped right to this one.
I just want to thank you, city councilors, for having this forum tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. All right, so we'll go back to the top of the agenda. Make a motion to take up item 1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This is the other petition that we've taken up a couple times now and sent out for information, of which everyone should have received an email from Kara with regards to our questions. So with that said, Mayor, take the item up, remove it from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Is he still here? Is he in the hall?
I was thinking.
Yeah.
think he left a long time ago.
Check the hall.
Yeah, as soon as he was done.
Yeah, I know.
Do we have a hard copy of that to put into the record?
Yeah, I have a rough draft so far. With regard to, hold on, I'll get
He left a long time ago. Noticed.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. I didn't realize that
They were taking names.
yeah. Who wasn't here? Yeah.
Okay, Kevin, we're taking up item 1. It was removed from the table. As far as your question, do we have a hard copy? I do not. Kara, do you have a hard copy of that email or no? Or your email? Did you bring a copy?
I just wanted to go into the record.
Yeah. If not, can we just borrow it to read into the record?
I should be able to call it up on.
Complied with.
I had sent her an email requesting the amount of the unemployment, because that had been another question.
All right, so on our last time we took this item up, we sent off a series of questions. Was the insurance paid for the city solicitor's health, life insurance, etc.? The response is the position for the city solicitor is entitled to all the benefits offered by the city employees. Upon separation from employment, the former city solicitor likewise would have been offered the same benefits as the other employees that leave. Were taxes paid under the $45,000 payout for unemployment, Medicare was withheld. It is my understanding that the request from the former employees' income taxes were not withheld from the lump sum payment. However, a W-2 was issued showing that the payment as income. Next would be, does the city does the city council send petition to the DA, ethics, inspector general, or other? The city has simply received a petition as a communication. As you are aware, the Attorney General's office found that the agreement did not violate any laws. Anyone may make a complaint to the Ethics Commission. The information is easily accessible on their webpage. I am not aware of anything that would give the District Attorney or Inspector General jurisdiction to review the settlement agreement. Committee is looking for a copy of her contract for salary and budget line items. If by contract you are referring to the settlement agreement, it is attached, and it was attached in the email. The salary for the city solicitor budgeted at $70,000. Should the committee set up an executive session with regards to this? Based on the above question, I do not believe that there would be a proper purpose for a committee to enter an executive session under open meeting laws at this time. And then you have the attachments that were there. So, does anyone want to see this before I give it back, or?
I had one, did it answer the question of how much was paid in unemployment? Do we have, Kara, I believe you're the author of this document. Do we know how much was paid out in unemployment?
Actually, we have to open that door.
Open it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we have a legal overrule.
Oh, okay.
I think that,
I don't have the exact amount. What I can tell you is based on the salary, because unemployment benefits are set by statute. So based on the salary for the position, there would have been an entitlement to the maximum benefit, which is $20,370. $20,370. That's what Attorney Egan would have been entitled to based on the You know, the statute, as far as how much is paid, it's half your salary for 30 weeks, so.
One half your salary for 30 weeks. What,
Or
someone making
don't quote-
$70,000 a year,
Don't quote, I have the, I don't think it's half, no, I think
But
it's, there's a.
I thought it was about, I thought someone in her salary range would be, I think the unemployment benefit maxes out at about $600 a week.
It's,
600 and something.
700 and.
Yeah, plus you get extra if you have children on it, you know, you get like an extra
This
25 a
was-
week.
That's what I was told from the city's employment, UTCA, which is our unemployment.
What'd you say, it was 700? Is
I
the
don't have
max-
the exact, that it was a maximum, the maximum that, she would have been entitled to is the figure I just gave you, the,
20370?
yes.
That doesn't seem to be enough for someone for 30 weeks. So well, I don't, let me
It's
get my
not-
calculator out, but
That's what I was
is
told
that
by
what,
our.
is that what it tallies out to be? Okay. No, I think Mass has a few extra weeks. Okay, so.
And a lot of
all right,
department
maybe
does
that,
not
maybe,
handle the
maybe that is
unemployment
right
claims
then.
administration, so this is what I was told by our claims administrator.
Okay, so let's see, 30 times, yeah, well, 30 times 600 would be 18, so a little, okay, that actually does sound right then. Okay. That's what she would have been eligible for. Do we know if she did the 30 weeks, or?
I do not have that information.
Okay. Do we know if she's still collecting now? Or that's expired, I would say.
It
I
would be
assume,
expired.
by this point. Okay. Any other payments still ongoing or that we're aware of, or?
No.
Everything's exhausted at this point? Cool. All right, thank you.
The possibility that there's an extension on that, because these benefits can be extended by the state.
I don't believe there, again, we don't administer the benefits, that's through our claims administrator. I don't think there are, based on what I looked at today, I don't believe there are any current extensions. It's 30 weeks that you're entitled to benefits for. But that would be a question for personnel through the claims administrator.
Jimmy and then Linda.
Yeah, thank you. I've been talking about this unemployment taxes for some time because people don't realize that it was a $45,000 settlement plus now you're telling us $20,000. So it looks right now it's a $65,000 settlement. How much legal cost did it also cost us for your?
I think we had previously provided the bills from Sullivan, Hayes and Quinn. Those would have been from, this is well over a year ago, so I don't have that, but we have, as I recall, I think at least on one occasion before finance, we did give you copies of those bills.
And how much do you guesstimate it was?
I don't recall at all, because obviously at that time Sullivan, Hayes and Quinn was handling other matters.
And are they still handling matters for us now?
If I can just go back, I believe, and I would have to look, this probably likely was billed under the city's retainer. I don't think it was billed as a separate matter, so at that time we were paying the retainer regardless.
It was $5,000 a month?
No, it was less. It was $3,500.
38. Because I remember the one night, we had very tough discussions in here, and I think they were taken aback at some of the conversations I was having. I think Councilor Jourdain was having, and a couple other maybe. But then, the following time that we had a meeting, per their contract, they were allowed. They brought in, the full boat of attorneys coming in and paralegals and that sort of thing, which I found interesting. So right now we're up to $65,000, and as Councilor Graney said, that could also have been extended as well. So we could be up, 70.
I'm not aware of any extension.
Would you have been notified if there was?
Like I said, based on what I looked at today on the Attorney General's website, it was indicated it was 30 weeks. Again, if you could check with personnel.
But it's also interesting too, because we have, very good teachers and whatnot, and every year we lay them off. And if any person, it was always the policy when they come in front of us, when the personnel director comes in front of us, that the city always fights any sort of unemployment. If a person gets laid off, they file for unemployment insurance. the city's philosophy is always to fight it. And yet now here we are giving it a part of a contract, a separation agreement, which I have a very quick story that I think you might find interesting, is when that law firm that was in here and I was asking some tough questions. I think they're fair. A lot of people said, they're fair questions. We want to know. The city council, I'm sure you've all heard it. We're covering everything up, walking up and down the aisles at Stop and Shop. You know where that money went. Why did it go there? To this day, no idea. However, I was asked to be on a very big board, a prominent board up in Northampton, who used the same attorney's office. The executive director called me and said the attorney did not want me to be on the board to help fundraise for that committee. I think, it's interesting. I think this is something we'll never know the end of. We'll never know why. But I do want to say $65,000 is a substantial amount of taxpayers' money, especially when we just had these lovely people in from Ward 5, septic systems, and $15,000 for this, $16,000, $30,000. We're not talking about peanuts here. We're talking about a lot of taxpayers' money that concerns me. Thank you.
Thank you. Kara, I want to thank you for getting us this information because I didn't really see it as your job. It's just that we were getting really frustrated because any number of us had asked any number of times for this information and simply weren't getting it.
Sure.
And so I do appreciate that. And I just want to read into the record something that I had shared with the committee at the last meeting, which was a copy of the W-2 for Heather Egan. And this was for 2014. Wages, tips, et cetera, listed was $71,295.78. And I don't know if you know this answer, but if we're paying something out in wages, don't we have the obligation to pay the employer's side of the taxes? Or if the employee says, I don't want the taxes taken out, does the employee then take the burden of both sides?
Right. My understanding is, from the treasurer, is that the taxes were not taken out at her request, and because it's on the W-2 and reported as wages, ultimately the taxpayer is responsible, however that shakes out in the end.
So there's no further liability back to the city?
Correct. I mean, obviously, it's dependent on
Usually it's, happening.
Right, on your personal circumstances, but at the end, if they're obviously reported as wages, and if enough taxes haven't been paid, you would owe them. So, and that's as compared to a 1099, which is not reported as wages, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? So, having received all the answers to the questions,
I would like to offer a motion.
Sure.
I would like to offer a motion that the president of the council, within 30 days, writes a letter to the Ethics Commission on this matter relative to 2 points. Relative to the amount and use of the public funds without authorization of the city council, and the second point, the expenditure of public funds under a confidential agreement refusing disclosure to the city council. Now, if anybody has a better way of saying that, I'm open to it. But those are the points that I think come under ethics. I mean, if we have no ability to understand how public money is spent, if we have no right to understand contracts that public money is spent on, I have to believe there is some law, some ethical standard, some tools somewhere. But I'm not an attorney, and I'm certainly not a municipal law attorney, so I would be stressed to try to name a proper statute. But if we're in the public eye and we're spending the public's money, it seems there should be a public right to know. So I will accept any amendments to that makes it cleaner or clearer, but that's the gist of my motion.
What was the first one you were talking about? Spending the dollars, and
Well,
refusing to
because-
disclose their what it was to the city council or whatever,
Well-
but what was the first, I think?
more specifically, that in the contract, there was an agreement, in essence, to pay the unemployment, to Counselor Leahy's point. So how does that happen when it is the policy of the city to aggressively fight unemployment claims? So how does that play in terms of fairness and equitable treatment of employees, and from the fiduciary point of view, into, you know, the public right to know?
I mean, I'm happy to write the letter if, you know, if it's, and I can review it with the council, you know, if that's the will of the body that they want to send it to the Ethics Commission, if that's what the council would like me to do, you know. But that's gonna be whatever the majority wants to do.
And I'm only suggesting that because I can't think of any other path.
Well, I guess my question would be, is the petition says, "We, the undersigned residents, hereby request that you, being the city council, ask the district attorney or attorney general's office to conduct a formal investigation with regards to the $45,000. Said investigation should determine whether there is anything unethical, illegal, or improper about the circumstances surrounding this payment." Your motion is to go to the Ethics Commission, which then I guess to legal would be is, can we make that motion when the petition is requesting something else? Do you see the?
Well, the petition is requesting it to be sent to a certain department addressing certain issues, but it has since been expressed to us that those are not the proper departments to address those issues. That the only department that's available to address the ethical issues that they have raised is ethics.
I think that was I believe the council did refer it already to the AG, and the AG's recommendation is, from our perspective, we don't have anything, but you may want to have the Ethics Commission look at it.
So, I mean, I can't.
So I think that's where the Ethics Commission angle comes at it, is that was their point in the letter. And I believe we've been studying whether or not there may be potential ethical issues, is, you know, one of the things that we did ask was the law department to do a review if they felt there might be anything that would conflict with, you know, 268A or any of the conflict statutes. I believe at one point, we did ask that, but, and I know we were getting all this additional information as well as to what happened, but,
Yeah, Ms. Graney?
Linda's point is well taken, and if the residents of the city want us to pursue it, then why don't we pursue it, and then it will either solve the situation one way or the other. But this is something that shouldn't be hanging over the council or the residents of this city for a long time. So why don't we send the letter, and let's find out what the Ethics Commission has to say, and then we can put this matter to bed once and for all.
right.
Yeah, Todd, I agree with Linda what she stated. I mean, since this was asking what Kevin did with the Attorney General, is it?
Yeah,
That
that
this
was.
is complied with, and then send a letter still? I mean,
Well, I think what I would do is say, you know, and I would review this letter with you first, right,
Right.
and the other counselors before I sent it, and if everybody feels comfortable with it, basically what I would do is I would say that, you know, here's what happened, here's a copy of the agreement, give some basic facts in it, you know, a page maybe, and then say on such and such a day, we had the Attorney General's office review it. They didn't find anything from their perspective, but they did say the city council may want to consider sending it to the Ethics Commission.
Yeah.
Therefore, we're referring it to you for your review. Do you feel that there's anything that may conflict with the conflict of interest law or any of that type of thing? And then, at which point, they'll either screen it out or they'll say, yeah, you know, we see XYZ as an issue.
I agree. I think, you know, I mean, this is going, what, over a year now? I think
Yeah.
Councilor Graney makes a good point that we got to move on from this, and
Right.
after the ethics, I think that'd be the thing to do, you know?
Yeah.
But sharing with the other councilors too.
Okay, so the motion is to send a letter from the city council to ethics with regards to the 2 questions posed, along with the letter from the AG's office, which was referring us over to them. And that was seconded.
Yeah, and I would say, the only other amendment I would say is allowing the president to craft the language subject to review by the city council. So I'll come up with a draft letter, and then I'll refer it to the membership, and then barring, you know, if anybody feels that there should be edits to it, you know, I'll review it, so.
All right, I put a side note, president will send a draft to the full city council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
Second, yep.
So that's the amendment, which was seconded. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Now should be a motion that this petition has been complied with.
Yeah, I would just say.
Make a motion that's been complied with, and the answers
Second.
were given to us by the
Law
acting
department.
solicitor.
Yep.
All right, so a
That's
second
second.
motion is the petition was complied with. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Now we can go through the rest of the jacket here. Can someone open the door, please?
So we took care of 1, 2, and 3 now.
Yeah.
Don't see anybody.
No one out here
number
for Brad
4.
Matthew?
Brad Matthews Jewelers.
Yeah. 2225 Northampton Street. Yeah,
Mike, is there anybody in the hallway at all for Brad, for the jewelry store? That already exists, that jewelry, that jeweler's there, they must
Yeah,
be
it's a
looking to sell
secondhand
items.
license to buy and sell, probably.
Okay.
The goal. Okay, motion is to table.
Yep.
All's in favor, all opposed? Next is, item number 5, make a motion to remove from the table.
Second.
All's in favor, all's opposed, or at the city and council, invite the mayor's office, city clerk in to discuss the codification of the muni code. This is just housekeeping.
Still, this clerk's office has not been provided the funds, the city clerk is very concerned. I should continue to share her concerns, and I was told that this was gonna be funded, so I think this should go to the mayor to request. He had agreed in the budget, at budget hearings, to put this money back. So I would ask that the city council, I would say that we just, refer it back to the city council, request that the order be adopted with a recommendation that it be sent to the mayor, asking him to restore the funding.
Second.
As stated he would do at the budget hearing. In fact, the clerk just asked me about this about 10 days ago, just giving me an update saying it's still not taken care of, so. And now it's getting old. It's been 2 years since we had any of the updates.
All right, so the motion is to refer to the city council to adopt and restore the funds for Muni Code as was stated in the budget hearing.
Yep.
All right, it was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 6, removed from the table. All those in
Second.
favor? All opposed? This is housekeeping. This is regarding the Munis system, having everyone in to update on Munis. As we all know, it's still in chaos as to who handles what. So it's been sitting in there. They all did come in that one night, every department. As you can tell, they're all doing their own thing. So instead of leaving it here, I'll refile it a different way. So I just wanted to get it out of the jacket.
Leave to withdraw, or do you want to say complied with, or?
I'd say Well, they gave us their update, so I'd say it's complied with.
Okay.
So motion that is complied with. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Oh, that must, maybe that's Brenna.
Yeah, I'm changing things up. Remove the table item from item 7. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Once again, housekeeping. This is a order with regards to a debit credit card machine in the clerk's office. They have it.
Oh, okay.
Do they take American Express?
Don't leave home without it.
Motion that is complied with.
Second.
Discover gives you points too.
All right, so all is in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
See you, Carol.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Remove item number 8, the hazardous material grant. Move from the table. All's in favor? All opposed? I did receive an email saying that there was a time restraint. They tried to take it up when we had a finance meeting. It wasn't on the agenda, so we couldn't take it up.
Who was this, fireman?
This is John Dijak.
Is this the thing they get every year?
They get it every year, so what he's gonna do is he's gonna refile to put it in the proper time frame. So he emailed saying, give this leave to withdraw, they'll refile and do the grant
Motion to
properly.
give leave to withdraw.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Take item 9 and 11 as a package.
Second.
All's in favor? All opposed? It's the same thing, it was listed twice,
Oh,
but
okay.
the numbers are wrong. In essence, this is, I'll make a motion to move from the table first. All's in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? The request, this came in towards the end of the fiscal year, which then it didn't make the deadline. So what happened was, they needed, or what they thought they would need, at the senior center, money for electrical bills or electrical costs. I did speak with people over there, and I had Ryan follow up with them to make sure, but they said they don't need this right now.
Oh, 'cause I was gonna say.
Yeah.
That was
So
weird.
recommend that they both be denied, or can,
I think you have to deny them.
Deny 'em. Because
You have
it's
to
money?
deny them because it's,
it's prior fiscal year anyways. I think they're denied as a matter of law anyways. Because you're only allowed 15 days into the next fiscal year.
right, so I think this is.
Okay.
Motion, well, it's really just an order, it just came out as a typo.
Yeah.
So it's really one, but,
One that's the
motion.
right number. I
It's
mean,
the 7,250.
number?
So really what it was 6,250, 1,000 for a grand total of 7,250 for electrical.
So I make a motion that item number 11 be denied.
Second.
All's in favor? All's opposed?
What about
And 9 is just a typo.
Yeah,
or
I think it's just it's a typo.
technical?
Okay.
Just-
So we took them as a
Disregard.
package just in case.
Okay.
But they're both denied because they're the same thing. And then the last one, remove item 10.
So, second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? This one, I did speak with Josie on. She's been in contact with DPW, and the order is that DPW or the building department determine the work required to do repairs on the armory. Damien responded to her saying that it really isn't his department, it's DPW. Josie's been back and forth with Bill. We thought Bill was gonna be here tonight, but he hasn't come. She wanted to get some update from it, so seeing how he isn't here to answer those questions, we'll make a motion to table it and bring it up again.
All right. Motion to keep it on the table.
Second.
All right, all's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And we have a meeting on Monday.
So, and that's the second question. Monday, there's some stuff that came in, so,
Busy committee, huh?
There's a lot of stuff in that audit.
there's the audit report that we have to take up by law. Either we take the communication or we bring them in to come in. There's a, Damien's looking for 64,000 from demolition for, demo supervisor, demo work. So he's gonna need that. There's the union, UFCW Local 1459. Their memorandum of agreement, but normally that should come with a financial transfer.
take care of all.
which we don't have.
Oh, you don't?
But I think what we'll do is we'll,
Was that a new job? Was that the one that's a new position?
this is the Department of Public Works Labor.
Oh,
they're-
it's a whole contract?
It's,
Or
well,
is
it's
it
the
just-
memorandum agreement, which then,
It's a new job, I think.
well, that's what we'll find out.
Yeah.
Find out.
So we'll bring that up. There's also the legal department, there's a Homeland Security grant that'll need to be taken up. There's a couple licenses for
We have a full agenda. So the 19th, you're saying?
the 19th.
So they gotta get that, does he gotta get that out to everybody?
What?
Like tomorrow, Ryan?
Yeah, it'll be, because we confirmed it that the date's open, it's just making sure we have a quorum. This one here is the water department, they want to come in and discuss some stuff. Do you want to do it on 19th or do it on a different date?
Not gonna take that long, yeah.
No, they're giving an update, yeah.
Organized.
All right, so put that as well. Yep. All right, so with that, that'll be for the 19th,
6:30?
6:30. And that's it. So I'll make a motion to adjourn. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
They've been downsized, one of the most.